I'm pharmacist Kevin Hope, and welcome to 5 Minutes with a Pharmacist. Today I'm here with pharmacist Jonathan Lehan, and Jonathan is with us from the state of Illinois. And Jonathan, you have a little bit of an interesting background here. His heritage in pharmacy, if you will, goes back to the 1940s. And he has a family pharmacy there, and he also has service to our country, certainly a big thing that we're all focused today on Veterans Day. So Jonathan, if you could tell us a little bit about your service to the country, and then we want to get into this whole story of how you became the fourth generation of pharmacists from a pharmacy that started back in the 1940s.
Sure. Yep. So it does start a little bit with being in the pharmacy, because that was my exposure to the profession. And when I started school, I didn't know that's what I wanted to do, because I could see how hard my parents were working. Thought maybe there was something a little less stressful. But so when I was in school, that's when I basically found out that and I decided to do pharmacy. Found out that the Air Force offered a scholarship, and kind of looking at my options, I said, that's something that where I grew up in Illinois, DeKalb specifically, we don't have a military base nearby. It's not something that was culturally part of my life. So I thought that would be a really interesting, unique experience. Kind of went in open mind, like I didn't know if this was going to be a career. I didn't know if I was going to go back to the family business. So kind of went in with a little bit eyes wide open. But so what I ended up doing was spending all my time at Edwards Air Force Base in California, which is where the Air Force does their flight test center. If you've ever seen The Right Stuff, which was an old movie and now it's a new set of TV shows, that's where that took place. So broke the sound barrier, that type of thing. So it's a unique experience, because I was used to retail pharmacy, and basically it was a retail pharmacy, but as many retail pharmacy and pharmacists know, insurance and other issues like that tend to be a big stress. Well, in the military on a base, there's no insurance. It's basically you fill the prescriptions, you get to spend time with the patients, but that whole part didn't exist. So it was a pretty rewarding area to be in, just because you got to spend so much time building the relationships with patients and not having to worry about that as much. And you took care of both active duty, so we had obviously pilots and all the support crews, and then just at a military base you have people that do anything, military police, pharmacists, everything. So taking care of active duty and their families, and then anyone who's retired that lives in the area, they're entitled to come to the base and get their prescriptions filled. So it was really neat, unique, a different world from what I was used to, but I really gained a really respect and appreciation for the culture of the military, and how that huge organization serves our country, and all the different little pieces and people that fit into it. And so that was just really eye-opening, and I really enjoyed my time there.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your service to our country, first of all. And I think that you're going to have plenty of pharmacists on board with getting rid of this insurance idea out of the whole idea of practice. Probably have a lot of people envious at this point. But let's turn our focus to this family pharmacy. So 1940s, that's pretty impressive. And you mentioned that you and your brother are both involved in the family business now. So can you tell us a little bit about what that feels like and what that's like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so it started in 1946 in DeKalb, Illinois. It was my great-grandpa and his brother, who had just come back from World War II, and he was in Europe. And prior to that, they had owned a pharmacy in Michigan. And Walgreens at that time, they referred to them as Walgreens agencies. They weren't actually like a Walgreens. It was almost like it's hard. They were a supplier, basically. They got their name on the door type thing. And so they were offered Walgreens agency said you can go to Texas or Illinois. They ended up coming to Illinois. And so shortly after that, my grandfather, after he came back from his time in the service, he went to pharmacy school and then joined with his dad and his uncle. At that time, the main moneymaker was the soda fountain. That's where the pharmacy was sort of like an afterthought, a way to bring people in, but that's really what they did. It was basically a restaurant, a diner type thing. And then the interesting thing for us, and we continue to innovate now in the pharmacy and what we do, but that's kind of how it started. Then you end up with more of like that sort of almost Walgreens, Walmart model. There's pictures of my grandpa selling TVs and cameras. When I was in high school, it looked like your typical chain pharmacy, no longer a Walgreens agency, but we, had video rental and your cards and gift section and that type of thing. And then when I was in high school, my dad started to, and my mom and dad are both pharmacists, so it went great grandpa, mom and dad who own the company, they actually just retired last week. And then my brother, who's an accountant, actually helps to run the business side of things. So at that point, it was all those types of things. And my dad said, I want to really focus on healthcare. And so they started to get into durable medical equipment and really focused on changing the look of the pharmacy, got rid of cigarettes. That was in like 1996, and really moved it towards that health focused type business model. Sure. And ended up opening a couple other stores. And I opened the compounding only pharmacy in 2012 after I had come back from my time in the service and spent some time with mom and dad in the main store. So it's been a constant evolution. I think that's the main thing, is it takes a lot of being aware of what the market's giving you and how you can help your patients best. And it's everyone who's a pharmacist here knows things are changing all the time, especially this year. But constantly being able and aware to pivot and find that next thing to help your patients. I think that's what really has enabled my family to do this for so long and still be successful. We have about 100 employees now, and we have about 6 or 7 locations between our pharmacies and home medical supply companies. So,
great. And thank you so much for your contributions to not only our nation, but to your community there in Illinois. So thank you so much, Jon, for being with us on today's episode of 5 Minutes with a Pharmacist. And thank you all for tuning in.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.